Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Khalid Al-Khalid. I'm the Deputy Director of Operations for International Organizations at the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for attending our panel discussion today titled Sand and Dust Storms Mitigation Between Theory and Implementation. The region of the Middle East today faces a mounting challenge in the form of transboundary sand and dust storms, SDS. Over the past 2 decades, the frequency and intensity of SDS have increased, fueled by factors like desertification, changing land use patterns, water scarcity, rising temperatures, and prolonged droughts. Clear manifestations of the pressing climate change impact on the region. These SDS are causing widespread destruction, severe socioeconomic damage, and posing significant health risks to populations in the region, costing economies in the Middle East and North Africa up to $150 billion annually. Today, we would like to discuss the strides made in mitigating sand and dust storms to limit the socioeconomic damage, health risks, and environmental devastation, with a particular focus on Kuwait and Iraq. We will also be discussing the research and analysis methodologies that aid in the understanding of the nature and origins of these sandstorms and how to better equip national capacity to face them. As sand and dust storms are a transboundary issue, regional cooperation and coordination and effective partnerships is absolutely imperative in addressing these challenges. And the SDS project currently being implemented by Kuwait Fund and the UN Habitat in Iraq is a clear manifestation of such collaborative effort. With that, I would like now to introduce our esteemed panelists for today. Dr. Amira Al-Hassan, Head of Kuwait and GCC Office of UN Habitat. Dr. Rawiya Mahmoud, Assistant Director General, Department of Forestry and Desertification in Ministry of Agriculture in Iraq. Dr. Abdullah Al-Anizi, Research and Director of Environmental Crisis Management for Decision Makers Program at the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research. Mr. Ahmed Al-Ba'aj, Head of Basra Field Office at the World Food Program in Iraq. Mr. Richard Jones, Science Fellow at the United Kingdom Met Office. Thank you, esteemed colleagues, for joining us today. And to initiate our discussion, I would like to start by asking Dr. Amira. UN Habitat is currently implementing a field project aiming at improved resilience against transboundary sand and dust storms in Kuwait and Iraq. Please tell us more about this project and what it signifies as a pilot.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, KFAD, for organizing this session, in which I would like to shed quickly light on our project in Iraq. As Iraq is one of the region's countries most vulnerable to climate change, extreme heat, drought, high wind and speed. In the last 2 decades, it was found through scientific evidence that there are hotspots that generate sand and dust storm that transboundary from Iraq towards Kuwait and the 6 Gulf countries. In a few cases, it was reaching Yemen as well. Therefore, the collaboration with the Kuwait Fund in this project is not, in fact, a pilot. It's a real implementation of interventions in terms of rehabilitation of the topsoil of the hotspots in Iraq. But as the area is very huge, so in this case, it will tackle only a small, not small, but a portion of these hot spots that generate 30 to 40% of the sand dust storm going to the Gulf countries, starting from Kuwait. So in our case, we will use satellite imaging. There is intervention with natural intervention and also artificial boundaries of, for example, barriers, different kind of barriers depending on the topography of this area. We aim also at the end of this 4 years long project to also engage local partners, because in this case we need to also to ensure sustaining the project. So training the locals on how to do effective interventions in their area. And also we bear in mind that this area in Iraq is with the scarce water. There is only one source of water from the other side of the Qar, Najaf, and therefore engaging the locals also will ensure good investment of using water, and also good investment in planting native plants. So towards the end of my my short answer is also we aim also by planting vegetation is to increase the humidity of the area, increase the level of oxygen generated to the atmosphere, and also capturing COO and the native plants. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Amira. And since I think you will be leaving us early, I want to capitalize on your presence, and I would like to pose another question for you, please. So, which partners or partnerships need to come together to successfully carry forward a regional initiative on combating SDS?
Yes, okay. We have to bear in mind there are other countries in the world that are conducting similar projects, but in this case it's a transboundary. So the intervention here is not only for Iraq, it is also capturing a bigger, wide area in the region. Therefore, our partners here, firstly, is the Iraqi government. We cannot work without them because they are our right hand in terms of facilitating our presence in Iraq. The universities and academics in Iraq are very important. We cannot work without them. That's one thing, and NGOs and locals inside Iraq are very important. On the other hand, the funding coming from Kuwait Fund is very important because, by the way, no other agency succeeded in generating such funds for this environmental projection. So mitigating the effect of climate change in this case is kind of it's not ambitious project, and no other, let's say, government was encouraged to step forward. But in the case of Kuwait Fund, I could say confidently that they were very keen on starting this project. They were seeing, they have a vision that this project is not about only working in Iraq, but they see the wide scope of this project. So Kuwait Fund was very essential and is still essential. It's imperative to work without them. And in the future, we want also to expand our work. So therefore, we call for other funds from other entities in the Gulf, let's say Qatar Fund, for example, or Saudi Arabia to line with us on the green initiative they are making. So different partners, but I cannot also skip the role of Qusar, because the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research are a good hand for us through analyzing the data before starting and after starting. And as I mentioned in the first question, we aim at lowering the effect by 30 to 40%. So I need now to measure not only how much SDS in terms of the years. By the way, in the 1970s, it was only 20 incidents of events of sand dust storms in Kuwait and the Gulf. Now it's more than 200 days. So after 4 years, we need also to calculate the morbidity mortality rate, because sand dust storm also affect the general health of the members of public. Therefore, ministries of health are very important to deal with them and to partner with them, whether inside Iraq or in the Gulf region. That's very important for us to calculate different kinds of data. How much vegetation we started with and how much we ended with, and also the economic impact, because as you mentioned, for Kuwait only, sand dust storm impact is loss of $190 million per year. So at the end of the 4 years, we aim to reduce this impact on the economic, environmental aspect for Kuwait. I think.
Thank you, Dr. Amira. Indeed, I think you have rightfully mentioned the importance of partnerships. And we at Kuwait Fund made a conscious decision really to contribute to this project and to fund this project. Since the early stages of the concept note that you have proposed in Kuwait Fund to Kuwait Fund. And we look forward to expanding this partnership to other GCC donors and financiers, especially that the effects extend all the way to Doha. Of this, the 40% of these sandstorms extend all the way down to Qatar, to Yemen even sometimes. Yes, absolutely. And since you mentioned Kisr, Dr. Abdullah Al-Anizzi, I apologize for skipping the introductions for the sake of time, but Dr. Abdullah is an established researcher at the Kuwait Institute of Scientific Research. And for you, Dr. Abdullah, Kisr has been working on a variety of topics related to SDS. What are the critical research questions that you are currently working on regarding sand and dust storms?
Okay, thank you. If we just go for search in Scopus or research it, and we found there's a lot of study have done about sand and dust storm, at least in our region. There's a lot of study related to the source of the sandstorm, how frequent it occurs, the socio-economic effect, also the health impact on the sand dust storm. But actually, we have to go level up. We have to go to do the research regarding the action plan. How we can mitigate sand dust storm. Kisar done a lot of studies related to those items and also other research in the region. So we have to do an action plan to mitigate the impact of the sand dust storm. Also, the other thing that we have to focus in research is we have to develop now an early warning system for sand dust storm. What I mean by early warning sand dust storm system, a system that when we have a sandstorm that we can warn people. You know, when sandstorm happen, there are the hospitals in Kuwait or in our region, the clinics will be very crowded because they have an asthma problem. So we have to develop that system. Okay, we have to cooperate with the Ministry of Health, EPA, other authorities that, okay, there's going to be a dust and sandstorm after 2 days. Okay, take action plan for that. Maybe they warn people that they have asthma, stay at home, or maybe the other emergency response authority, they will, okay, to take their action plan. In Kuwait or in this country, I'm sure they have an action plan for when the sandstorm and dust storm happen. So we have to warn them. This system include forecasting system, include monitoring either by remote sensing, by field monitoring. Also, it have to be a communication system. I think that's what we have to focus on research. Action plan, developing an early warning system, part of this action plan.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. Indeed, I think the Kuwait, I keep on referring back to the Kuwait Fund project because it really feeds very well into your recommendations. I think the project is comprehensive in the sense that it is doing the baseline assessment. It is proposing, or it will propose interventions in all different kinds. And then it will, I'm sure it will recommend such recommendations that you have just elaborated on. Early warning system, I think that are linked at the national level and at the region level is really very, very important for us. And with that, we are lucky to have with us this afternoon Mr. Richard Jones from the UK Met Office. And for you, Mr. Jones, I think I would like to ask, what role do you think weather forecasts and warnings play in reducing the impact of sand and dust storms?
Well, just to follow up on the work that's already ongoing, I mean they form the sort of fundamental element in the early warning system, so they can generate with a few days notice what is expected in terms of the dust. Sort of sources and amounts of dust that and sand that will be generated as a result of dust storms, and then communicating that information. And as you said, I mean the key issue then is who are the institutions that are required that need this information. How do we communicate it? How do this happen in a timely fashion? This requires the bringing together of a lot of different actors. And then really understanding the requirements that they have for the information, how it is you can get it to the institutions, then you can cascade it to the people who need it. What are the systems that you need in terms of, is it warnings by the radio, by television, or are you having to go by mobile phones directly to sort of the vulnerable people? So I think we have a lot of expertise within the region coming from the sort of the WMO mandated centre in the National Centre for Meteorology in Jeddah, which has a lot of the underpinning research experience, which of course we can link, and some of the work that the Met Office is doing within the region in terms of supporting the implementation of early warning systems across the whole of the Gulf and the MENA region. I think that there are areas in which also that we would be able to, interested to collaborate as well.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Jones. Following on that, I think we would like to know what are some of the challenges you encountered with developing impact-based forecasts and warnings?
I think probably the main challenge is to be able to really identify what are the weather variables that the thresholds of those that are that cause the impacts, and then to be able to provide with a reasonable lead time some very clear indications of when these events are going to happen. But as I was saying in my previous answer, there are people and institutions that need this information, and there are communications channels that are required in order to deliver this information, and bringing together all of the different actors that are involved in the use of that information, either individual members of the public or health institutions or the media that are required, having all of those people coming together. And that's really probably the biggest thing, bringing them together and designing those sort of very fast transmission of the early warnings to the people who need them.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I think indeed we look forward really to the capacity and the knowledge that the UK Met Office has, and we look forward to the partnership and the value addition in your input in the sand and dust storm project that we are implementing with UN Habitat, and we look forward to signing some a joint statement, I think later on today, that will feed into that. Dr. Rawiya, what is the current impact of sand and dust storms on Iraq, and how is Iraq coping with these challenges?
Thank you very much. I am proud to have opportunity to share information about the such essential issue of the sand and dust storm in Iraq. Iraq has been suffering from the climatic issue, and one of the vulnerable countries suffer from the impact of the climate change also, specifically with the area of the sand and dust storm. There is many reasons leading to the sand and dust storm in terms of desertification, increasing temperature, water shortage, and the water scarcity, and the losing of the topsoil. All these aspects has been essential to increase the frequent and intense appearance of the sand and dust storm. There is many area we try to deal with this issue, but we calling for international collaboration and extend our further study and pragmatic action to be need in the ground to solve or reduce the impact of the sand and dust storm.
Thank you, Dr. Rawia. Please, can you tell us more about the current field projects by the Ministry of Agriculture on combating sand and dust storms? And from a technical point of view, what approach and which techniques have been most successful in the field?
Actually, Ministry of Agriculture within the State Board for Combating Desertification has the role to reduce the impact of climatic impact. One of the big projects that has been working in the south of Iraq, in the Kar and Al Muthanna and Wasit, it's called Project for Stabilization of the Sand Dune. It's a huge project and it's located in the Kar governorate, and we using the different way to stabilize and reduce the mobilization of the sand dune. By using the mechanical method, which has been successfully effected in the south of Iraq and reducing the impact of frequent appearance of the sand and dust storm. And also we use the different way by using a biological method, like increasing the native species that can promote the crust of the soil and enhancing the vegetation cover, and also reducing the impact of the sand and storm. As you know, there is many negative impact for the sand and dust storm. It's not related to our nature, but it's impact on the human activity. Some people are seeking from changing lifestyle due to the increasing appearance of the sandstorm. People are keep moving, and we facing a problem of internal migration from city to city due to the mobilization of the sand and dust storm. And you know, there is negative impact on the economic sector due to this event, like the delay of the airline process. There is negative impact on the health of the people due to the asthma and other diseases, especially with the elderly people and the young. And we facing that government give a holiday due to the frequent and it's not usual dust and sandstorm, so it give us a public holiday to reduce the impact on the people. So there is announcement to stay in the house without facing outside due to problem. So it's not an easy issue to deal with, but we move further. There is a big work has been done on the ground. We have lots of experience in dealing with the pattern of the sand and the sound mobilization of the sand. And we use technique way to keep the humidity and the moisture as much as we can, because this area it's completely dry and we suffer from the water scarcity. There is no way to use water even for the people in the south of Iraq.
Thank you. Very briefly, Dr. Rawia, what support does Iraq need to be able to more effectively combat sand and dust storms in Iraq?
To reduce the impact effectively, we call for more support for financial and technical support. We have lack of data due to the sand and dust storm. We know the hotspot, and we make lots of map due to the GIS and remote sensing. We recognize the hotspots that affected Iraq and affected other countries, but we receive the sand and dust storm from different areas also. So without any international collaboration between Iraqi and other countries, as Dr. Amira say, we call to enhance the project of the UN Habitat in the area of Iraq, because it is not pilot project, it's a pragmatic project, and it's real a project. The fund of the Kuwait that we appreciate, it's not enough to show people in Kuwait the effectiveness of and exact reducedness of the sand and dust storm. So we need to extend the fund from different countries that also sharing the same effect of the sand and dust storm. In the call of sharing but different responsibility. We all have to respect our environment, and we share the same responsibility, but we fix it in different ways. Without any cooperation, we cannot fix the problem as Kuwait by themselves, of Iraqi by themselves. We need to show people that there is a real and effectiveness of reducing impact on sandstorm by regional or international cooperation among us.
Thank you, Dr. Arawi. Indeed, I agree with you 100% on the need to have, let's say, shared but differentiated responses, and the need to scale up financial resources to have a more impactful and a more evident response to this challenge. You also touched on the lack of data and the importance of data.
Yes.
And we're very lucky to have Dr. Abdullah Al-Anzi. And with that, I would like to pose this question to you, Dr. Abdullah. The term evidence-based approach or science-based approach is used frequently in connection to actions against climate change. How can scientific research be more directly relevant for the use in field projects on combating sand and dust storms?
Okay, thank you. It's very important to understand that we cannot, the sandstone, sand and sandstone, we know that it's phenomena, natural phenomena, but sometimes it become disaster, become hazard when affect people, cause socio-economic problem or health problem. Now, I cannot mitigate the effect of sandstorm unless I have to know about it. I have to study, do research, I have to do study about this phenomenon. I'll give an example of the area that we are working with the UN Habitat and the Kuwait Fund, thankfully supporting to rehabilitate this area. How we know that this area considered as a hotspot? That was based on research for 20 years. Research, monitoring. We found that during every often that this area became a source of dust storm that extend from Kuwait to Saudi Arabia to Qatar, even goes to the south to Yemen. How we can monitor that? By doing research, by monitoring, by remote sensing. Without research, we don't know where, how we don't know that this is considered as a hotspot. Now we know that, okay, this is an area that a source of sand and storm. By the way, in 2018, in August, we faced a heavy dust storm, and it's never we faced in Kuwait. When we go monitoring this one by satellite images, we found that it's from that spot. It became like as a jet going direct to the area of Kuwait. I remember that civil defense, municipal public work, municipality, all the emergency response authority, they are trying to there's a lot of sand encroachment in the building and the street, try to remove the sand from, but they couldn't because of this sandstorm. So we know by research that okay, this is a source of sandstorm. Now we are now doing, we're gonna do a rehabilitation with the site so that we can reduce, okay, the effect or reduce the sandstorm from that area. We have to do like an ecological monitoring. This is part of research. Is it being rehabilitated after we rehabilitate or we planted? Are the sandstorm have been reduced or no? That's a research. Also, when we do rehabilitation, where we to start? Where is the hot spot that the area is about 1,500 kilometers or more? Okay, I cannot rehabilitate all the area. I have to do a research or study. Where should I start? put an action plan. This phase 1, this phase 2, phase 3, and go on. And also, I have to do research. What kind of plant I have to plant? How can I do irrigation? Okay, plant-based. To do that, I have to know the soil type, because each soil type have certain plant. This is a research. So you cannot combat sand and dust storm until you have to do a real detailed study about the sandstorm or the area that you're gonna rehabilitate.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. I think you have mentioned a lot of very detailed scientific details that I think we all appreciate. With that, Mr. Ahmed Al-Ba'aj, head of Basra Field Office World Food Program in Iraq. Given the increasing impact of sand and dust storms on agricultural production and rural livelihoods, what policies and regulatory instruments will be necessary to guarantee food security and sustainable livelihoods in and from agricultural production in the region, also for future generations?
Thank you, Khalid. And first of all, thank you. I would like to express my appreciation for Kuwait Pavilion for hosting us and also for receiving us, and also for you and Habitat colleagues to facilitate, and also for you, Khalid. So talking about livelihood and the impact of the thunderstorms, this is one of the major challenges that facing the population in 12 governorates in Iraq, mainly the central and southern region of the country. And because of that, we already identified, the evidence tells us that around 130,700 persons already displaced only until of September from the governorates, mainly from the Qar, Muthanna and Qadisiyah, heading to other governorates due to losing their livelihood or means of livelihood. And the coping mechanism to deal with this crisis, with this climate-induced displacement, they mainly change their livelihoods. So, for example, whether they are, buffalo breeders in the marshlands, or they are working as farmers, they go to these cities and working in different jobs, and that creates some other problems or social conflict with other people living in the cities because of this demographic change. So as a World Food Program, we are closely monitoring the situation, and I would like to follow up on what has been mentioned by Dr. Abdullah on the issue of the importance of monitoring and early warning. So we are working closely with the Ministry of Agriculture. We already signed the letter of agreement on December last year with the minister, and we are following the smart agriculture, and we are supporting the capacity building of the Ministry of Agriculture in meteorological and automatic weather station for the early warning, so that it can play a role in monitoring the thunderstorms and other climate issues. Also, we are building the capacity of the communities in terms of coping mechanisms, and also how they can apply different techniques on the importance of the environment, the agriculture, the irrigation, the new irrigation techniques. Also, our work is already aligned with the general UN role in Iraq. So the first part on the monitoring and the early warning, and second is the mitigation of the resilience, vulnerability, and the impact of the sand and dust storms. And under that, we already work on two different aspects in identifying the best practices in terms of protection of the assets. So, for example, if they have greenhouses, how to deal with them, how they protect their livestock. And then we also identify the best practices in terms of the vulnerable groups, for example, women within the societies. And also, we are supporting the capacity of academia, the universities, the research institutes in Iraq, in terms of the evidence generation activities, specifically on the source mitigation. So as mentioned by Dr. Abdullah, the source sometimes need to be identified accurately, so that we can work on, based on scientific approach, to identify, to work on that. And then we also work closely with our colleagues in UN Habitat in order to address the same areas. Especially now we have other actor, which is important, dealing with this issue of the sandstorms in Iraq, which is Ministry of Water Resources, like the Ministerial Order number 73. in Iraq. That was in November last year. And under which they already allocated like 6 billion Iraqi dinar in order to divide it between the two ministries of the Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Water Resources. So we already have the discussion with them, and we already supply some materials like the innovative techniques to combat the sandstorm, like the water boxes or grow asses. Like this is already have done this, and inshallah we are going to supply other governorates in the southern region to apply this innovative technique, which is already applied in UAE and some other regions. It is important to mention that we are learning from the region. We see the best practices in other countries. Maybe a bit away from the sandstorms, we did the mangrove project, which is already implemented in UAE. It was successful in creating the ecosystem that can help. And we got the support from the government of Basra, the local government, and also the Ministry of Environment to implement this pilot project to support the tidal flood. And also it will help to reduce some of the sandstorms coming from the southern part. Because also we received some impact from the Kuwaiti side, from Jabal Sanam. Also, it was identified as an area on that. Also, on the policy framework, we are supporting activation and implementation of law. For example, the law number 27 for the protection and improvement of the environment. Also, we are capitalizing on the global convention. For example, Iraq joins good set of global convention on environment. The Biodiversity Convention that was already in 2009. Iraq joined this. And then Ramsar Convention on protection of the wetland. So we're already working on this policy side and also working to draft a new law to protect, for example, the marshes in Iraq as a very important region in terms of ecosystem that will also have good impact on the region, not only in Iraq, but also will benefit Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Imagine if this area will be already revitalized, and then it will also reduce the sandstorms in the region. So this is in general. Also, inshallah, we are all in the process of supporting the smallholder farmers, those in the regions that are prone to the sandstorms effect. Also, we know that the quantity of the land area of the agricultural land has been reduced by the sandstorms. Now we have 66% of the agricultural land already declared as per the statistics from Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Planning, either desertified or prone to be desertified. So it is already huge. So you can imagine the impact on the economic part. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed, very much for all of what you have said, but more specifically on bringing the element of conflict and natural phenomena and how each exacerbates one another. And now I think for the sake of time, we have a couple of more minutes to wrap up, but any final thoughts from our esteemed panelists? We start with you, Dr. Amira.
Just in short, we are looking forward to generating funds for the second stage of this project to expand and to mitigate the effect of climate change through rehabilitation of the soil in Iraq.
Thank you very much. I also want to share something. We call for extend the fund in this area, but the most important that we know how to deal with this item, with this phenomena, but the problem need to transfer technology. We have shortage of transfer technology, so we're using the mechanical way, and it's very costly. So transfer technology and the extend in the fund, one of the essential issues that I'm pretty sure that will reduce the frequent and intense appearance of the sandstorm for both sides. So keeping in mind that transfer technology and the fund is the elements need to be for urgent call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah.
To reduce, to mitigate the sand and dust storm, it's required the cooperation between the researchers, policymakers, decision makers, emergency response authorities, the financial organization. They should work all together to develop an action plan to mitigate. With the cooperation of those entities, we can reduce the effect of sand dust storm. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last point, we need to emphasize on the importance of having the Iraqi government on board. Last year, I think, or this year, the government already signed the strategic plan for the climate, and they already have some commitment to do also towards the environment in the region, and especially taking into consideration that Iraq is already upper middle income country. So we have already resources that need to be already contributed to the effort from the international community. So the fund should come also from the Iraq, and we also see very good signs from the Iraq government in terms of the response to the climate aspects. But hopefully we want to see more participatory work throughout the region, because as mentioned by Richard, this is already transboundary issue affecting the whole region. So we need to act as one entity, as one united to face this threat. Thank you.
Thank you. So there are just a couple of themes that come out, one of which very clearly is the need for international cooperation across the region, integrating the research and the observations. But the other thing is also is very much learning from good practices that are happening elsewhere, and in terms of the development of early warning systems and the implementation of early warning systems that really that allow good impact-based forecasting to reach the people and the institutions that need those. And I think there is very good international experience on that. The Met Office has a certain amount of that, and we can join with other countries in the region that we are already working with, and we will be very happy to be a part of that initiative.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, colleagues. In conclusion, I would like to once again thank our esteemed panelists for their valuable insights and reflections. I believe we have clearly established that both the fields of monitoring and research have made significant progress towards diagnosis of sand and dust storms. There is also great strides being made by both governmental and non-governmental organizations to minimize the impact of these storms in the most innovative ways. Nature-based solutions have been underlined as the sustainable option, taking into account each country's unique environment. So thank you very much. For any questions, maybe bilaterally after the panel, because we have another one lined up.